Hello everybody, this is Kay and welcome to my channel, Junking with Gigi. I am going to do a start to finish journal today, a journal making tutorial. I'm going to use a different kind of binding that I've been using lately, and I don't know if this is the official name of it, but I'm going to call it the wrapped spine binding method, because basically that's all it is you take your cord or your twine or whatever you would normally use to sew in your signatures, and you just wrap the spine with it. And that's how you put your pages in, and it's a no-sew binding method. And these are two smaller journals that I've made using this method recently, and I'll show you real quick. So you can see I've just wrapped this around 3 times, so I have 3 signatures, and the pages are just slipped under to hold them in. So this makes the pages removable, or you can add to it. And I think that's a real simple and versatile way to bind a journal, because it allows you to move things around. You can take pages out and decorate them or sew on them, things like that. So I think it's a fantastic and really easy way to bind a journal. Oh, and by the way, I am going to do a flip through video of these 2 smaller journals pretty soon and add them to my Etsy shop. But I wanted to make a bigger one today, but I'm going to use the same type of material. And for these 2, I used a cereal box, one exactly like this for that matter. I really like this size of cereal box because of the width of the spine. And on these 2, I just made 2 smaller ones to accommodate 8.5 by 11, you know, cutting my papers perfectly in half, and then not having to trim them to use, you know, to create all those extra strips. And I'm going to use this box again today, but I'm going to make this one 9 by 6, also to accommodate 8.5 by 11 full pieces of paper. So the first thing I'm going to do here is on the side here where the cardboard is joined, I'm going to separate that so I have one big flat piece of cardboard. So this is going to be my spine and my covers. So I'm going to cut the top off, and then I'm going to measure from the top 9 inches so I have my height. Do that first, and then I'm going to cut 6 inches from the spine fold to make my 9 by 6 journal. And I'm going to kind of speed that up and skip over some so that this isn't a super long video. Alright, so I've got this cut down. It is 9 inches tall, and then the front and back covers are 6 inches each from the spine crease. So the next thing I'm going to do, though, because this is kind of flimsy, and I did the same thing on these, is I'm going to double up on my packaging cardboard here just to make my covers and my spine a little sturdier. And I'm just going to use this mailing kind of cardboard mailing envelope and cut out 3 panels, 1 for the spine and 2 for the covers, leaving just a gap where the crease is so that we still have a good amount of flexibility in the crease. So I've got my 3 extra reinforcement pieces cut down. They're all the exact height of the journal, 9 inches, but you can see I did leave a gap here at the folds so that we're not impeding the journal from closing too much by putting too much bulk there. So I am just going to use my craft tacky glue and glue these to these pieces, and then I'm setting them under some heavy books for a while, and gonna let that dry real good. And I'm just gonna kind of spread this around. I'm not worried about getting all the way to the edge because I am going to be covering this with some fabric on the front and some more paper on the inside. Okay, that's good and dry now. And I have picked out this fabric, and I've got a pretty good sized piece of this. I actually made some valances for some of my windows out of this some years ago, but it's a fairly neutral piece of fabric, and I've got plenty of it to use to cover this journal. And I'm not doing any particular theme with this. I'm just gonna keep it kind of neutral. So I'm going to cut a piece of this fabric down to where I have about an inch margin all the way around. Grab my fabric scissors for this. So let me see if can't tell if I'm in frame. So yeah, I'm just going to cut this down, leaving about an inch margin all the way around. I'm going to use my same glue, my Aleene's tacky glue, to put this fabric on, but I did water it down just slightly, just added a little bit of water so that it'd be a little bit easier to spread. And I'm just going to start with one end here to get it positioned on my fabric, and I'm just going to kind of spread that all along one end. This glue dries pretty quickly, especially when it's watered down a little bit, so I'm going to just do a little section at a time. So I got that on there. I'm going to just place it here to make sure I get it, get it fairly even all the way around. If you have wrinkles in your fabric, you don't really need to worry about it because gluing it down will smooth it out. So now that I got that positioned, I'm going to actually flip it over and continue from here. And what I'll do is I'll just pull this back, add a little more glue, and keep going all the way across. Now I'm going to flip these over, and I'm going to kind of miter my corners. So I'm going to go in. I don't like to go straight across like this like some people do. I kind of go at a different angle, but I'm going to stop my cut just maybe a couple of millimeters or so before that corner, like that. That's how I like to do it. And the reason I like to do it that way is so when I get ready to fold these over and glue them, I can kind of push this corner in. I'll glue my long sides down first is what I do. And then when I go to glue my short sides in, I kind of use my fingernail and push that in and then fold over. And what that does is give you a nice kind of clean corner. So I'm going to cut all 4 of my corners just like that. I'm going to grab some smaller scissors here. So I'm going to start with my longer sides here and just pick up some more glue and pull those over the edge and glue them down. I cannot seem to do this without getting glue all over my hands, but I mean, we're crafters, right? So we get glue all over our hands. That's just kind of part of it. Unless you're a lot neater than I am. Maybe you can do this without getting it all over your hands, but I can't seem to do that. Okay, so now I'm gonna do these short ends, and I'm gonna just paint along the glue along here like I did on the long ends. But I'm also going to make sure I get a little bit into that corner right there where I'm going to do that little tuck fold thing. So I'm just kind of working a little bit of the glue into there too. And then I find it easier to kind of hold it like this and just kind of poke that in with my thumbnails and then fold over. And sometimes it even helps, it's even easier if you lay it flat and use a fingernail and fold it over like that. So that might even be easier on bigger covers anyway, like this. So just fold that over, make sure that's all tucked in nicely, and see how that kind of just gives it a nice clean corner. So lay that down. I think I need a little bit more glue under that flap of fabric. Now I'm going to take another strip of this fabric and I'm just going to glue it to the inside over the spine area. And this is what gives that crease a little bit more reinforcement without adding a lot of cardboard bulk to it, because the fabric will stay flexible but also give it that bond. So I'm just going to start. And I've overlapped it, I've made it a little wider too, so it'll go over these edges, which are going to be covered. These ends will be covered later by the paper that I choose to put on the inside of this cover. But I'm going to start with just the spine area here, putting a little bit of glue all up and down. I'm not worrying too much about getting all the way to the edge right now, because I can go in and fill in those gaps later. Just want to get this spine covered. And then I'm going to go to one side and put some glue on, and I'll use my bone folder on this too to just kind of work that fabric down into that crease. I've picked out this piece of scrapbook paper as the inside for my journal cover, but before I can do anything with that, I want to add my closure. And I'm going to use the same type of closure that I did on these smaller ones. So basically, I put 2 eyelets in the back and add some elastic that goes around the front like that. But I have to do that before I put my inside panels on to cover this. But before I can do that, I have to let this dry real good. So I'm going to take a little break, put this under some books again, and let it dry for a while. Okay, this is good and dry now. I'm just going to kind of crease it back down on those creases at the spine, the folds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my pencil, and so this is going to be my back cover. I'm just going to kind of eyeball a couple of spots and make a little mark of where I'm going to punch my holes for my eyelets. And I've pulled out 2 little black eyelets here and my crocodile that I'm going to use for this. So I'm just going to put 1 in each corner here. And as I said, I'm just eyeballing it. I'm going to use the larger punch, and this is the larger eyelet that goes with this tool. It's the, oh gosh, what size is it? 3/16. So unlock that and just kind of line it up. Actually, I need to adjust this. I don't think I want it going in quite that far from the edge. You know, approximately where my pencil mark is. Maybe I went in a little too, maybe I do want it to go in a little further. As soon as I get this right, I'm just going to kind of line it up where my pencil mark is and punch a hole on each of these corners. Got something stuck in there, so where's my, one of my pokey tools here to get that out. Okay, and this one. Okay, and I'm going to pop these in there. I want this part to show on the outside, so I'm going to pop those in there from the outside. Sometimes this is they're a little tight going into the hole sometimes when it's a thicker piece, but maybe that's a good thing. Okay. And now I need to adjust this to the bigger thing. Okay, and clamp those down. I'm going to use this elastic cord. I think it's about maybe 1 millimeter cord. I got a big old skein of it, and what I'm going to do is I want my tie end to be on the outside because I want, unlike these other ones, I put my knot on the underside of this because I wanted to hide the knot. But on this one, I'm going to leave it on the outsides because when I bring it around to the front, I want to hang some beads on it. So I'm going to feed it through this way and then back out that hole And what I want to be sure and do is make it long enough so that if I end up with a gator mouth journal, it's still gonna, you know, I'm gonna have enough of my ends to tie it and hang my beads on. So even if I end up wasting a little bit of this, I'd rather have too much and have to trim it off than not enough to be able to do what I want to do with it when I'm finished with constructing this journal. So I'm going to leave it plenty long. I have a ton of this anyway. I think it's going to last me a lifetime. And where did I put my scissors? Okay, so I'm going to cut that off, but I'm not tying it or anything yet. So now what I need to do is take my scrapbook paper that I was going to put on the inside of these covers and cut it down into 2 panels to fit on inside the front and back cover. So let me get my ruler. So I want to make it, I want a little bit of a border, not much. I'm gonna make it, let's see, 5 5/8 by 8 3/4. Excuse me. 5 5/8 by 8 3/4. I grab my trimmer here. And I want my pattern here going up and down rather than this way, so I need to cut it. Sometimes I really mess this up. I need to cut it this way at 5 5/8.
And the other way at 8 3/4, right?
Alright, I got those cut, and I also inked around the edge. I used my Distress ink in Scorched Timber to do that. And I'm going to use my Fabri-Tac glue for this because I really want to use a strong glue, but what I need to make sure I do on this back cover part is I don't want to pull this tight and really stretch this, but I do want it to be straight and, you know, snug. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some masking tape and just kind of make sure my ends are even here, because I want to have even on the ends, and just kind of pull it straight out to the middle, and then I'm going to just tack this down on my board just to hold this so it's not loose. I want it straight and just slightly snug, okay? And then I'm also going to take my Fabri-Tac and I'm going to run a little glue along there and put some masking tape there to just kind of help reinforce holding this onto the back cover. So I'm just going to run it here. I'm going to try and avoid getting any glue right on those holes because I don't want it, obviously I don't want it seeping out to the other side. So I'm going to put another little piece of masking tape on there. But I'm going to not get too close to the edge because I don't want my masking tape to show either. Okay. And now I'm going to glue this down. I'm going to put Fabri-Tac all over, let's see, the back of this. And then I'm going to glue down the other side, and we'll be ready to go on with the next step after this dries. Okay, I'm going to put some heavy books on here while this dries, but I'm going to leave it right here. I don't want to undo this yet because my glue is still wet and it might come loose under here if I undo this. So I'm just going to leave it right here on my desk, put some heavy books on it, and let it dry real good before we go on with the next step. So while that was drying, I went ahead and got my signatures together, and I've got 3 here, and I kept them pretty simple for this video and didn't do a lot of embellishing. I used a piece of scrapbook paper for the first page, and then the other pages are just a variety of tea-dyed papers and other types of paper I have on my stash. A piece of craft paper. This paper right here is kind of a linen resume type paper I picked up at a thrift store. This is some tea-dyed lined paper that I took out of a discarded journal that I picked up from a thrift store. So you can see I kept them kind of plain for the purposes of this video. I'll probably go back in and embellish them later, but one of the beauties of this type of journal too is that you can slip pages in and out of it easily if you want. If you put them in there and then change your mind and decide you want to do some sewing on them or stenciling or whatever, you can just slip them out and do that and put them back in. So now we're going to get on with the binding. So this is the front. I'm going to put this face down for right now. I'm going to use for the binding this cord, and I'm not sure if it's cotton or linen. I found a box of these at a yard sale for super cheap, a couple of dollars, and it had black and it also has brown and then some brighter colors, which I don't use those very often. I actually use the black and the brown most of the time. But this is kind of a 1 millimeter cord, and it's really, really strong. And that's what I'm going to use for this wrapped spine binding. I'm going to go ahead and get a bit of it off the spool, but not cut it off yet. So I want to start about a couple of inches down from the top of the spine, and I'm going to leave a long tail. Because I'm not sure, I might want to, string some beads on there and make it a little bit more decorative, kind of like I did on this one, these 2 other smaller ones. So I'm just going to kind of hold it on the spine, a couple of inches down from the top, and then start wrapping it. I'm going to go around once, twice, and 3 times, because I've got 3 signatures, and you can see on the inside there's 3, oops, sorry, I bumped my phone, 3 in there. And then I'm going to bring this to where I started my other one, and also leave a long tail. So now at this point I can cut it off. I'm going to leave pretty long tail on this end too. So I have these 2 free ends, and I have wrapped it 3 times, leave around the spine. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over my words a little. It's a little bit hard to explain how to do this. Now you want to pull them snug, but you don't want them super tight, because remember, we're going to be sliding signatures of paper under these. So snug, but not super tight. Now, as far as these 2 raw ends go, what you're going to do is kind of cross them like that. Okay, I'll hold this up a little closer. Again, cross them. Don't tie them, just cross them. And then this one that's on the left, you're going to run under all 3 so that they're both coming out on the right, but that one is underneath the strands and this one's on top. Okay, I'm going to repeat that again. And I wanted to let you know I did not figure this out for myself. I first saw this binding method on the Treasure Books. The lady's name is Natasha. If you haven't seen any of her videos, she's absolutely wonderful. She gives clear instructions, and she's the one that I first saw this method from on her channel. So, okay, so again, you're going to cross your strands, bring the one on the left under, so they're both coming out on the right. Now at this point, before you tie, you can adjust the tension on your strand. So I like to pull a little bit because sometimes it gets a little loose while you're messing with this part. So you can adjust and pull, but like I said, snug but not super tight. I don't know if that helps you to be able to tell how snug they are. But once you have that at the tension you want, that is when you tie. And again, I'm just going to do a square knot. So I'm going to go right over left, trying to keep the tension snug. And then left over right. It really, on a square knot, it really doesn't matter whether you start left over right or right over left, just so you reverse it on the second tie. So that time I did right over left and then left over right, but you could certainly do left over right and then right over left as well. Okay, so there you have it. And that's our binding for our signatures. So now you can kind of go in here and you can kind of slide them around to adjust them. I'm just trying to get them evenly spaced on my spine, like so. And now we can add our signatures. So I'm going to take my first signature and find my middle, which is right here where this piece of craft paper is, and slide it under my first strand of cord, just like that. Now, one thing about this is it does kind of slide around and wiggle a little. If you don't like that, then you might want to go back and just do the 3-hole pamphlet stitch. That holds them in there quite a bit sturdier, but this is so simple and easy. I really am enjoying this method. And like I said, you can take pages in, take pages out, put pages in, move them around all you want. So first signature in, second signature, I'm going to find the middle. I'm going to kind of go at it from this direction because this will be out of my way. But you do have to avoid also going under that one, which, you know, so it can be a little fiddly sometimes getting it under there without getting caught up in this one as well. But there's the second one. And then the third one, same thing, kind of push these to the left, find my middle. See if I can get a hold of that and slide it under. And that is all there is to that binding method. So now I have these, which I can embellish with some beads or charms if I want to. I'm still going to leave these untied because if I do embellish this journal at all, it's going to make it fatter. You know, it's going to turn into a little bit of a gator mouth. I'm hopefully not too much. And then I still have to decorate my cover. But that is pretty much it for the wrapped spine binding method. And I'm going to end this video here because it's already getting pretty lengthy, I believe. And I like to keep my videos, you know, fairly short, 30 minutes or less, so people don't get too bored. I will probably finish this off camera and decorate the cover and do a flip through of it and put this on my Etsy shop at some point. So keep checking back to my channel for that. And then also these other two that I made. I have a little bit more embellishing to do on the inside of these, and then I'm going to do a flip through video and post these on the Etsy shop as well. So keep an eye out for those videos. Thank you all so much for watching today, and have a blessed day.